Hi children, welcome to our channel Concepts with Shobana. இன்னைக்கு என்ன கான்செப்ட் பார்க்க போறோம் அப்படின்னா கிளாஸ் 7 ICSE சிலபஸோட ratios and proportions. Okay, ratios, proportions. எல்லாரும் இது ரொம்ப கஷ்டம்னு நினைக்கிறீங்களா? It's very easy chapter. Of course, we have to understand and very important chapter also. ஏன் இந்த chapter ரொம்ப important அப்படின்னா these ratios and proportions லாம் futureல நிறைய aptitude testலலாம் கண்டிப்பா you can expect some questions in this ratio and proportions. Also, day-to-day usesலயும் we will be using ratio and proportions. Okay, so first let us see what is meant by ratio. What is meant by ratio? Ratios are nothing but comparing two quantities. What is ratio? Comparing two quantities. Okay, இப்போ quantities அப்படின்னு சொன்னோம்னா the quantities, how should be the quantity? The quantity should be of same units. Okay, quantities should be of same units. Only then you can compare. Okay, you cannot compare a man with a scale. இல்லையா? So you can compare man with a man or a scale with a scale. Yes, so அதுதான் வந்து here we are meaning the same units. Okay, the same units அப்படிங்கறச்சே how will you say the same units? For example, ஒரு rectangle எடுத்துக்கலாம். Okay, rectangle you have a length and breadth. So length and breadthல if you are measuring length in meters and breadth in centimeters, you cannot compare. So you cannot compare because rectangle the measurements units and length is measured in meters and breadth is measured in centimeters. So meter is different, centimeter is different. So you cannot compare. You need to have the same units. It means you can compare meter with meter, centimeter with centimeter, liter with liter, and the madri paisa with paisa, something like that. Adhe madri same arkra units mattum you can compare. Only if the units are same you can compare. It is nothing but a ratio. How does it helps? A ratio helps us to compare quantities. Also, one more use is there. You can develop relation between the quantities. Yes, you can develop a relation between the quantities. Okay, what sort of relations? How can you develop a relation? Simple. Usually எடுத்துக்கிற same example. Cost of 1 chocolate 10 rupees. Cost of 5 chocolates என்ன 5 into 10 50 rupees. Yes, so what is this? You are comparing ratio of, that is 1 chocolate oda ratio 10 rupees. The cost is 10 rupees and 5 chocolates oda cost enna 5 into 10 50 rupees. You are comparing the cost of 1 chocolate with 5 chocolates. Okay, so upper ratio enna 10 and 50. Here paru chocolates compare panna 1:5. This is the relationship between the two chocolates. Okay, so this dot represents ratio. Yes. Now, how can you express this ratio? You can express this ratio in form of fractions. Yes, how can you express this 1/5? 1:5. You can express this as 1/5. Now we will see what is meant by equivalent fractions. Okay, we saw how to write ratio in the form of fractions. Equivalent fractions na enna, equivalent ratios na enna, we very well know what is meant by equivalent fractions. adhe dhaan ipo vandu ratios kum panna porom. See eppadi pannalaana, you have 1/2. Okay, in the 1/2 ratio enna inga 1:2. in the 1:2 how will you write in terms of fractions? 1/2. So இதே மாதிரி 1/2 வர மாதிரி ஒரு fraction எப்படி சொல்லலாம்? Can I say 4/8? பாருங்க how எப்படி இது ரெண்டு equivalent சொல்றோம்? See 1 into 4 is 4, 2 into 4 is 8. equivalent fraction இதுதானே நம்ம சொல்வோம். It's the same as nothing but equivalent ratio. இதே fraction when we represent in the form of ratio, it is a equivalent ratio. So ratio போட்டுச்சு 1:2 and 4:8. So how will we compare? How do you say it is an equivalent ratio? Just simplify this ratio. How do we simplify? You have to keep dividing. பாருங்க 4 and 8. What are the common factors for 4 and 8? It's again 4. So 4 1s are 4 is to 4 2s are 8. So 1:2. See, when you keep simplifying, when you keep reducing the ratios, we end up in the same ratios. So it's called as a equivalent ratios. If these like fractions are equal, then the ratios obtained are also called as equivalent ratios. Okay, now based upon these equivalent ratios, we are now going to define what is meant by proportion. Yes, what is ratio? We saw what is ratio? Ratio is comparing two quantities. Now we are going to define proportion. What is meant by proportion? Proportion is comparing ratios. Yes, yes. Okay, inga we said comparing two quantities la. I said quantities should be of same units. Inga comparing ratios la. How should be the ratios? The ratios should be equivalent ratios. Okay, now did you understand the difference between ratio and proportion? Ratio is comparing quantities and proportion is comparing ratios. So ratio, how did we express? We express ratio using two dots. Now how are we going to express proportion? See, I have one ratio 1:2, one ratio 3:6. Yes, now how do I say, how do I am going to represent in proportion? Paranga. So ஒரு ரேஷியோக்கு ஒரு டாட், இந்த ரேஷியோக்கு ஒரு டாட். So two dotsல represent பண்ணோம்னா it means it is in proportion. So this is one separate ratio, this is one separate ratio. இப்போ இந்த ரெண்டு ரேஷியோவையும் we are comparing. Yes, before comparing நம்ம இது equivalent ratio இல்லையான்னு செக் பண்ணிக்கணும். Yes, of course it is equivalent ratio. Why? பாருங்க 3 one time, when you reduce this 3 ones is 3 and 6 is 2 times. So நமக்கு அதே 1:2 வந்திருக்கா? So can we say it's equivalent ratios? Yes. So when you express these two ratios, when you compare these two ratios like this using 4 dots, it means it is in proportion. Okay? Yes. Now we will go into the problems. Hope you understood this. So now we will go to simple problems, how to calculate ratio and proportion.